Hey everybody, how is it going? It is June 21st, 2023, for whatever reason. Jeez, can you believe it? Why? How did we get here? This is RambleCast. I'm Cody. I'm the host. This is Corbin. Hey, at this point, he's also basically the host.
At this point, I'm just an autopilot. I'm here to make a witty remark at everything Cody says, and then my brain shuts down again.
Yeah, that's actually kind of true. Scuttlefield, hey, how's it going? Long time no see, sir.
Wow.
Also, I see Diablo, Austin, and Hoopy in the room. Thank you guys for being around. Corbin is the AI co-host. Exactly.
Yep, I'm not actually here.
You're just a VTuber that's poking in once in a while. Fully automated.
VTuber, but instead of looking like a cool person or like an anime girl, I'm just me again. Me, but somehow even more tired.
Yes.
Pushing the boundaries of entertainment.
Oh, we're supposed to entertain? Wow, we're screwed. Okay, anyway.
These have been public? What? Oh no, I said a lot of stupid stuff, Cody.
See, Austin, exactly. So, yes, Corbin, it's official. You now belong to the Valnet family.
Yes, we're now technically co-workers again.
Yes.
But in the same way that like we are both American, like just very far off in distant places, but the same power structures affect us both.
Okay, that's an interesting comparison. I would have chosen more like you're in cell block C, I'm in cell block A.
Yes.
I guess it's cell block AP and cell block HTG, but yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
Man, they need to never hear these comments. It's a good thing that I'm doing this on a completely private show that they have no access to.
It's a good thing no one watches this.
Exactly.
No, it's fine. They know how I feel. They have the Slack logs from when I was complaining about Valnet like a year ago. I'm not a
Yeah.
coward. I'm not deleting my old Slack messages.
Yeah, this by the way, advice to everyone: never talk any kind of trash in Slack ever.
That's true.
Inevitably, the person or someone connected to the thing you talk trash about will eventually have access and get to read it. This somehow will always happen. And actual legitimate note, also don't say anything in private DMs, because trust me, they're really not private. Like Slack, Slack very much lets the owner read anything they want. But anyway, Diablo, the internet is forever. Yeah, it is. And if anyone ever finds those pictures, there goes my political career. Anyway, so let's see. Do we go straight into a topic? I don't know. We could honestly just sit here and babble for another half hour. I think that would be okay. It's just been that kind of a week.
I don't know if I have anything to babble about. That's the problem.
I mean, we could always just go straight to movies. You're in the middle of a full MCU rewatch, which you're almost to the really dark stage. Basically the 2020 stage, where nothing good comes ever again. Except arguably if you really enjoy the fan service from Spider-Man, but
yeah, I'm watching the Marvel again. There's a lot of movies coming out that I want to see, so I'm booked there. I just saw Pixar's Elemental, I think on Monday. That was pretty good. I had very low expectations from all of the marketing, because it looked like Disney doing either a Forbidden Love story again, which they've like just beaten it. Like, if it's not a dead horse anymore, it's just completely disintegrated. There's nothing left. Or they were doing another Zootopia, which I really like the premise of, and I like parts of that movie, but it kind of just completely fell apart. So I was hoping they wouldn't do that again. But no, it was pretty good.
Cool.
And I was reading some articles about how, like, mostly getting pretty good reviews, but it's currently like bombing in theaters. I think they made like 25 million opening weekend or something.
Well, everybody is paying attention to The Flash, despite the fact no one's going to see it. So I think that completely overshadowed Elemental.
Yeah. Well, it's I was reading one article that was kind of interesting, and they were just talking about how, like, Disney's sort of training people to just wait for the Pixar movies to show up on Disney Plus, which I imagine is also happening to Marvel to an extent, probably. But Pixar is they're doing more. They're definitely more original IPs than Marvel, so I think that's working against them. Probably encourages more people to still see Marvel movies in theaters for whatever reason. But yeah, no, I just did a Google search for Pixar Elemental because I wanted to check the numbers, and of course Google showing a little snippet of a Fox News article that says Disney's Elemental, which features a non-binary character, flops in opening weekend. So that's what they're focusing on. And by the way, like, this is another like blink and you miss it, like representation thing from Disney. Like, I literally did not catch it in the movie, and then I saw someone make a joke about it on Letterboxd, and it was like they mentioned that person like once. Mm-hmm. That was the so again, like, you know, completely unrelated, but that's what they're going for.
Oh, well, if you're not rage baiting, you're not even trying.
Austin said you're forgetting the Toy Story cinematic universe. Yeah, They are. I forgot they are doing another Toy Story.
Oh, I honestly think there is nothing that will ever stop them from making more Toy Stories. It's like
No,
the Fast and Furious movies.
Yeah. Well, it's so perfect because like you're making a movie about toys, which you can use to sell toys. So it's like a perfect infinite loop of marketing.
Speaking of Transformers, no, not really. I have nothing to say on Transformers.
Yeah. Neither do I. I saw the new one was bad again, so I'm gonna continue sitting out that franchise.
Oh, I'll probably get around to it some. Actually, now that I think about it, I don't know that I will. I feel like I will, but I didn't bother seeing Bumblebee. I didn't see. I'm not sure that I saw the last Transformers movie.
I've seen the first one. I saw the first one again last year. It was back in theaters for like, I don't think it was 10th anniversary. It was something else, but first one I think is still cool. Absolutely garbage in every other respect. Like, I like how the Transformers look, and music's still pretty good. Story is completely awful. Whoever was the female lead in that movie, I forget. I think it was. I forget who
in the first Transformers movie.
Yeah,
Megan
was
Fox.
it Megan? Megan Fox. Yeah. Yeah. No, they just completely treat her like a sex object. That's her purpose in the movie.
Yeah. Look, I don't think there's any denying it. She knew what she was there for. She was perfectly happy. To be fair,
yeah, I'm sure she read the script before. Yeah.
It's read the script. You mean she saw the storyboards that show her bending over a car a lot? That is her job in the movie. I'm sure she knew it.
And I saw, and that's also another one of those movies where it's like very like military propaganda, but somehow at the same time depicts all of the military as completely stupid. Like they're like really excited about all the war scenes, and then the rest of the movie is just about how the military keeps getting hacked.
Yeah.
But yes, I saw that one. I think I still like it, even though that's a problematic fave, I would say. And then I have a very vague recollection of like the two after that, and then I think I tuned out.
The very racist one and the other one that's just bad. Yeah.
Which there was a racist one?
I believe it's the second one. I'm like 95% certain it's the second one. They have two bots in there that are they are kind of very visibly like they're kind of beaten up, pieced together sort of junk bots, but they speak in very I don't know what the correct term for it is, but I think it's like jive talk. I think that's how it's referred to. I apologize if I've got that wrong. It's not intended cruelly, but oh yeah, people got pissed at that movie.
That's a certified Michael Bay moment.
It really was. And then the one that came after it was, if I remember. Oh, I might have, now I don't remember. The one that came after it, I think, was just a crap movie. And then the one that came after that was the Mark Wahlberg one.
Yeah, I think I saw half of the Mark Wahlberg one when it was on TV or something. I was like, all right, did they reboot this enough to where it's not bad anymore? And the answer was no.
Oh, not only was it not bad anymore, or not only was it still bad, it was bad in that way where his girlfriend or whatever, or no, sorry, his daughter? I don't know, whatever it is. There's a whole underage girl situation going on. And yeah, that's not great. Yeah, God, those movies. Anyway, we should probably get off of movies and
Well,
And the,
Scott O'Phil did say thoughts on the generated AI title sequence for Secret Invasion. Did you see that?
I saw that in the comments. I have no clue what the hell this is about. So
They just
fill me in.
okay, yeah. So Secret Invasion is the next Marvel series. They got Samuel L. Jackson back, and they used generative AI to make the intro sequence, because it was the show supposedly about like aliens that can sort of disguise themselves. So they do the like all of it looks the same. It's you know, all the AI stuff kind of looks the same. So it's just like all the other like video demos I've seen of the AI people on Twitter getting super excited over just like basically like art like morphing back and forth. It doesn't even really look interesting, but that's what they did for the intro video. And people are upset because it's you know, yet another thing where we can cut out a couple humans from the equation. And yeah,
Yeah, it certainly looks cringy. I pulled up a tweet with some stills, and yeah, it's not looking. It doesn't look wonderful.
no,
Actually, it looks kind of
No.
weirdly lazy for AI generated stuff. But hey, I guess that's a thing.
Yeah, I can't wait to get to the point in my Marvel rewatch where I'm just like, you know what? I've hit I think I've hit the farthest further I need to go. My journey ends here. I'm gonna go watch something else.
Yeah.
Gonna continue watching Community again for the 4th time.
I mean, can't go wrong with Community seasons 1 through 3, kind of 4.
Yeah. Usually I stop when Troy leaves, but I don't know. Might go farther because there is a couple good episodes after that.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Though that final season is, yikes.
That was weird. Yeah.
Yeah, it lands about as well as a ton of bricks.
Yeah. Speaking of a ton of bricks, do we have anything that's related to bricks?
I mean, all I had to do, and this joke just makes itself, all I had to do was slightly scroll just a little bit over to trending topics on that Twitter page to find Bobert is trending. I'm just saying. I don't know if you heard about this, but the quick one reason this is or she's trending is because she introduced articles of impeachment for Biden. And a bunch of Republicans have already just come straight out saying, yeah, we're not voting for this. So it has literally lost before it even made it to a vote.
What state is she even from?
Colorado.
Okay.
Look, Colorado and Georgia have a lot to apologize for. Let's just put it that way.
Wow.
And Bobert makes you a brick. Bobert's job should be making bricks. But anyway.
She might be good at that. If sometimes when you're in the wrong occupation, if you apply yourself to something completely different, you might discover you're very good at it.
Don't I know
it? She could be a great, you know, I don't know what she'd be good at. That isn't detrimental to humanity. There's got to be something.
Look,
maybe selling weird things on Etsy, or you know, maybe AC repair person. Those are in hot demand.
Okay, I'm just gonna throw out. I'm not making the joke. I'm gonna let everyone fill it in however they like, but I'm just going to suggest bricklayer. Make of those words however you want. Moving on, before I get myself in trouble.
Getting into MLMs, yeah.
Oh yeah, 100% MLMs.
Every suburban mom's dream.
Oh, what was that? What was that company that used to that people used to sell junk. Oh God.
Anything of Tupperware?
I mean,
That was one of their
yeah,
ones.
that. But I was thinking more like not makeup, um, but it was like lotions and uh oh,
Yeah.
I don't remember. Anyway,
I mean, there's a lot. There's a lot of those.
yeah. But yeah, I could totally see her being that person who walks around with like the suitcase full of crap and hosting parties at people's houses
Yep.
where she pushes them to buy junk.
Yep. She
Things
seems
that are
pretty
really
great
only
at.
good at scaring away mosquitoes.
She seems great at manipulation, so I think she would do well there. Oh yeah, Mary Kay. That might have been it.
That's not the one, but yeah, them too.
Yeah. There's a lot of them.
Yeah.
They're all still around for some reason.
I think some of them have gone away, but others, at least the one I'm thinking of, I'm pretty sure has been turned into like a engine degreaser or some crap like that. Anyway, so shall we get into Intel's dumbassery? Actually, well, this might actually be a good thing, but who knows? The Intel thing you brought up.
Sure. Let me move my chat window around. Yeah. So last week, this was rumored or leaked or something a little while back, but Intel officially announced last week that they are changing their processor branding. So they still have Intel Core, but now instead of they're basically removing the I from every number. So now it's a Intel Core 5 instead of an Intel Core i5, and then all the numbers and letters after that. And they also mentioned, they talked again about the next gen chips, Meteor Lake, which are supposed to be on the Intel 4 process node. I don't know if that's 4 nanometer or something different. They're not using like nanometer numbers because also those numbers don't mean a whole lot. So, but yeah, in addition to the name change, they are also introducing Intel Core Ultra. They didn't really say what is going to be an Ultra chip in this press release. I don't know if they told someone else. Maybe someone got an interview later on, but I don't know if that's just going to be what they shuffled the Core i9 to, or that's a different vertical altogether. But I think it was I want to say it was The Verge who talked with Intel about this, and their reasoning for this was basically just to make people say Intel more. Because in the past, when you're talking about these chips, you just say, "Oh yeah, my PC has an i5." Now you need to say probably Intel Core 5, because if you just say Core 5, I don't know how many people are gonna get that, even when this sticks around for a while, because Core is just like the very common word. I don't know.
That's actually weirdly clever in a terrible way. But at the same time, I have a feeling almost everyone is actually just going to keep referring to them by the I names.
Probably. Yeah,
And
that could very well happen.
unless they like reset their numbers or something, or do something funky, I have a feeling that everyone will just keep saying i5, i9, because it's faster. It rolls off the tongue better than Core or Intel.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's really that. Still waiting on the next big upgrade there. I guess it's interesting. The I don't know. It's interesting to see Intel try to like maneuver with this stuff in light of so much competition from Apple and AMD. Like all of their manufacturing stuff has just been delayed over and over again, and they're still sticking with x86 just like AMD is. I wish they would do different. um, and again, like I wish they'd succeed because we really don't need like one viable option for PC CPUs. That's not good. That's what we had for several years. It really sucked.
Okay, so I certainly agree on that. I got this nagging suspicion that, well, and this is obviously a real stretch on the theory, but I kind of feel like at this stage, as anyone could safely assume, Qualcomm is obviously sticking with ARM. I don't think there's any version of the future where Qualcomm is not going to be playing pretty heavy on the ARM stuff. And Apple has obviously gone all in on ARM. So, ARM is kind of an owned thing at this stage. And that said, obviously ARM itself, the company, is a disaster. Like, their licensing policies is a mess. They've literally gone out of their way to sue companies that are trying to do good things with ARM. And not even for good reasons. Like, they're kind of terrible. I have a feeling that might be a big part of why Intel got away from, or it never went into doing anything with ARM. The licensing agreements are horrendous. That said, we know that there is progress happening with, oh damn it, I had the name in my head. I want to call it Xscale, and I know that's wrong. I know Austin or Hoopy, one of you will immediately tell me what the name is, and because I'm totally blanking on it. No, not Nuvia. Though Nuvia is what Qualcomm sued over. Or sorry, not Qualcomm, but ARM sued over Nuvia, wasn't it? Anyway, my theory is that Intel is probably waiting to see a little bit more progress on that architecture. And when it happens, Intel might go pretty heavy into that. Which means that they'd be partnering up with Google a lot. And I think that's something they'd probably appreciate. And it would also mean that RISC-V, thank you.
Wow. Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I was going to bring that up when you were done talking. I didn't want to interrupt. But yeah, it's I do think that's entirely possible that they're just sort of waiting for the next thing, so to speak. Yeah, that's very possible to me, especially because I don't know how much of a difference this would really make in terms of like how quickly they would ship a RISC-V thing, but a big part of their business now is just acting as a foundry for other chip designs. So they're I don't know if they are yet, but they said they were going to manufacture ARM chips for other companies. Just, using existing design. Like basically they were going to be a TMSC.
TSMC.
In America, but in the US, we're not quite as at risk of being destroyed. But,
yes,
anything can happen.
So as Hoopy brings up, how long has RISC-V been the next great thing? Well, okay, Austin also just answered it. In architectural terms, not very long, and yeah, it's a pretty new kid on the block. But I'll put it out there, Intel is in a position where they either had to come up with their own architecture, something that would compete with ARM, and have a chance of pushing through, which, look, they've tried this. If anyone hasn't been paying attention, they have tried this. I literally named Xscale earlier, which failed to make it, and they've tried it with a few others. Possible RambleCast episodes if you can dig up anything interesting about them. Or sorry, not RambleCast. My brain's off. Tech Tales. Dig up some of Intel's failed architecture attempts. Maybe those would be amusing episodes. And I'm sure there's so little that they'd just be one-off episodes.
Yeah. We did do Itanium. But that was actually a lot because they stuck with that for a while.
Yeah, they really
far
did.
Longer than they should.
And yeah, China has obviously been investing pretty heavily in RISC-V, which is a good reason for Intel to also break into that market. And furthermore, like, there's no licensing cost with RISC-V, which is something that I'm assuming at this stage Intel would love. And if they're going to get some sort of backing from Google, that's honestly kind of a decent place to be. Like, there's no guarantee it's going to be successful or profitable, but it's a better place. So I kind of see the logic.
Yeah, and part of me wonders if, like, the increasing transition to ARM kind of makes this more feasible, like, sort of to the extent that the computing industry has already ripped the band-aid off. Like, okay, we're selling computers now that are not x86 and everything's fine, and it turns out we can build pretty good compatibility layers around legacy software to, you know, until you need to get to like really low level hardware stuff, then it becomes difficult. So you know, I could see that being a factor in like why, even though this might have took longer to mature, like we're seeing faster growth on it for that reason. Like, it's like, okay, like we can do this now. Yeah, that will definitely be interesting, because like again, like I'd like Intel to do well, because you know, more options is good, and they seem to be doing pretty okay with the graphics cards right now. Like, they're still not targeting high end or like even like high-end mid-range stuff yet, but at the price points they feel comfortable competing at right now, they're pretty cool. They're pretty good. I don't know why I said cool and good in the same word, but they're pretty good. And yeah, you know, again, I'd like more options. I just worry that Intel is getting a little bit too comfortable, because they're being handed a lot of money by the U.S. government, because they're like the only chip manufacturer we have. The U.S. government's like, please guys, open some more factories here so we can maybe stop having one island to build all of our country's chips.
Does AMD not make theirs here?
No, I don't believe so. I know there is a okay, yeah. TSMC is building a factory, and I think Arizona. They're building a fab here.
Yeah.
I don't think AMD, like, I don't know if they I don't think they have like that set up anymore. As far as I know, all of their recent processors have been manufactured by TSMC. Maybe some Samsung too. But like, I don't really know how much they manufacture them, if they ever did.
Okay.
I think like everything I've heard from them recently is built by TSMC, and same thing for Nvidia.
Yeah, so anyway,
yeah, Hoopy said AMD is fabless now and entirely contracts out to others, as far as I know.
Okay. So, all the same, Intel's future is in one of those weird, sort of shaky places. I don't think there's a lot of good things to say about where they're at right now. Obviously, they're not struggling. They're benefiting from our current sort of xenophobic behavior.
Socio-political environment, yeah.
Sure. Yeah, that's a more polite way to say it. But yeah, I don't know that that's something that really keeps them in good shape. And yeah, right now they have a few advantages, but those can, as we've seen in the past repeatedly, those flip very easily. So yeah, they need to do a little bit more. And I'm not sure that this rebrand is really the way to do it. I mean, it helps, I guess, though I think it's gonna equally just annoy people, but we'll see. And honestly, like I said, I really think everyone's just gonna keep saying i5, i9, etc., etc.
Very possible. Yeah.
The notion of the Intel Core Ultra chip does have me curious, in large part because I can't shake the feeling that this is maybe going to be a chip targeted at a specific kind of audience. I don't think they said anything about who it's for, right?
Who's what for?
The Ultra.
No, they literally just said it's introducing
brand.
Intel Core Ultra processor for the most advanced client processors. So something that goes in a desktop or a laptop.
Yeah. So yeah,
not like AMD has EPYC for their server chips, and I think
right.
Intel still has Xeon.
Yes, though last I heard their Xeon line was having weird problems.
Yeah, I think everyone's just buying AMD now.
Yeah. But I have a funny hunch that the Ultra brand is probably going to be for gamers. That if I was going to target any group with something named Ultra, it'd probably be gamers. And though I suppose they could be sort of like targeting air quote professionals, the same group that these days is going for Apple.
Yeah, their branding is weird because they also have this Intel Evo thing, which is like the sticker they put on laptops that they think are good, that meet whatever battery life requirements, whatever that they think earns them another sticker. Yeah, I don't know. Like every time I look at Intel, they just sort of seem to be grabbing onto anything. Like they just did. Well, I say so just this might have been like, yeah, like I don't know if this was a year ago or 2 years ago, but I remember they got the guy from the Mac versus PC ads, Justin Long, to do ads for Intel PCs, and like almost all of them were just about like Intel chips go in 2-in-1 laptops. Apple doesn't sell a 2-in-1, so we can use this as an advantage. Like, okay, guys, like you got anything else? Like when I had a 2-in-1 laptop, I can count like on both of my hands the number of times I used that in a way that wasn't just I'm sitting up the laptop to just be a little TV on my desk with the keyboard going the other way.
Yeah,
I think that's what most people use that for. And yeah, Hoopy said, I appreciate the rebrand just because it's clear Intel isn't going to make a new family of consumer CPUs anytime soon. Yeah, I have been kind of wondering like if they would ever drop the Core branding. Because like honestly, that's what that's sort of what Qualcomm did, where there's definitely two shifts going on here where Intel and Qualcomm have both done the thing where they've decided to use less branding for the lower end stuff. So like Intel just dropped their Pentium and Celeron and other stuff that was associated with lower chips. And now those are just like Intel processor bunch of numbers. And Qualcomm did the same thing a couple of years ago. They stopped calling I think it was 200 series. I don't know if they also did it with the 400, but they stopped calling those Snapdragon. So now they're just Qualcomm, whatever 200.
Yeah, I get why they're doing this. They don't want to muddy up the names of the good things, and at the same time they don't want to bring attention to the fact that the thing is actually a low quality budget product. So yeah, they're just giving it the most boring name possible. That also, someone might come along and see that name, and if they don't know better, they might just assume it's good. Just because of where it comes from.
Yeah, so definitely interested to see where all this goes. But yeah, definitely with Risk V and all of the uh, Taiwan, US, China shenanigans, it's going to be some interesting developments happening here in the next couple of years. Um, but
Yeah.
yeah, so what do we got
So,
next?
just because it got noticed in the chat room in the or in the Discord, I figure let's make fun of the Apple thing, the desktop widget thing.
Oh yeah.
Carson, thanks for posting this one. Uh, so Steve Moser posted to Twitter a screen recording of uh, moving a widget into a big batch of icons on the desktop. And this is on Sonoma, and it is a absolute like true fail. This is the definition of a fail. Because the widget gets dragged in and the icons just frantically move around trying to find a new place to hang out. And like this just is a mess. Apple, I'm sorry they did not I mean, I don't want to say they didn't test it. I'm sure they tested it, but this is not how you'd want something to show up.
Yeah, that almost feels like one of those made up UI demos. Like
Yeah.
people take this a joke. It's very weird. Also, this is truly devastating for all of the old people that just have a desktop just completely filled with icons, and there's no organization when you look at it as a person on the outside, but they know exactly where everything is.
Mm-hmm.
And this will just completely devastate them.
Oh
Move
yeah.
everything around.
Yeah, and I mean, I've said for a while I think a lot of people aren't really going to use desktop widgets because in large part it's one of those things where you can try to use them. They're nice. It's a great idea, but so many people just always have windows over them, and sure, you can use the gesture to make all the windows go away, or well, kind of shove off to the side, and then you can access your desktop widgets. But is that really the best way to do this? I honestly just don't see that. I think we should just go back to I forget the name of it, but that desktop view that was designed literally just to house widgets that used to exist for
dashboard?
Like dashboard, yeah.
Yeah.
It existed for years and it was great.
Yeah, I want dashboard was great. That was such a good idea. I remember using that a lot. And one thing also that was really cool with dashboard is that you could make your own widgets with just like HTML and JavaScript.
Yes.
And even if you had no programming knowledge at all, you could like select an area on a web page in Safari and convert that to a widget.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that part would be very helpful today with how sites are just sort of like not static or don't have the same thing in the same place anymore, really. That might be more difficult, but I would still like the option to be able to take like a web page and make it a widget on like a dashboard thing. Because there's a lot of like web apps that are like designed for a smartphone screen, and there's not a huge size difference between smartphone screen and like size of an acceptable widget. So like, or even, websites could update to like understand smaller sizes when Apple does this. Because Microsoft is also getting back into widgets more. Windows 11 added a little like widget panel thing in the sidebar, which right now is mostly useless because it's just Microsoft's widgets. But the last big update for Windows 11, they introduced finally like an API for apps to so like Facebook has a few widgets now. I don't know what other third party apps and stuff has, but they're also working on an API for web apps to make widgets. So if you have a PWA that you install through Edge or whatever, it can add a widget. And I've I've got like I'm been watching that documentation to see whenever that gets fully rolled out, because that's something I would like to try to build um, stuff with. That seems cool. But yeah, there's so I would like more like kind of web stuff here, and I would like dashboard. It seems like Apple was kind of trying to have it both ways, because I think I saw there was something in the macOS update that was like one tap and you like see your entire desktop with all the windows out of the way. So like kind of doing the same thing but in a worse way. And I know that was the thing with like Expose like a decade ago too. So yeah, bring back dashboard. That was pretty good. Or just something where I can have widgets that aren't like in a tiny quadrant of my screen when I click the notifications.
Yeah.
Like I've got this whole ultra wide monitor right here at my desk, and the widgets are taking up like 20% of it.
Yeah, I was gonna say I would even be happy if they just simply decide to make this 2 columns, and if you happen to have enough widgets, then it goes to a second column. Like that's it. It's a small ask.
Yeah.
Also,
Or
I wish that my
like-
widgets wouldn't just disappear entirely, because whatever the hell is causing that, it drives me nuts.
I don't think I've had that issue.
Some of my widgets stick around all the time. They never go away. Others, every few months, they'll just vanish, and I have to re-add. Yeah, it annoys me.
Yeah, I need them to. They definitely thought about widgets again this year, but I need them to like think about something different, because this whole system's kind of weird, where they have like this like notification widgets thing in like one kind of sidebar thing, and then they have the control center thing in like another panel that has like overlap with some of the status bar icons, and they probably need to just clean all this up and do something different. But I'm afraid to say that, because I have a feeling they'll make it worse, or they'll do the Apple thing where they make a cool new thing, and it's just like an option alongside the 5 other ways to accomplish the same task. Just how there's like 5 different ways to automate things in macOS now.
Or, oh man, how about this? I'll throw out the thing that we know it'll never happen, but it'd be so cool if it did. Apple, how about letting somebody develop widget hosts? Just an app that's allowed to host widgets. We know that'll never happen, but it would be kind of cool.
You mean like
let app developers figure this out for Apple, basically.
I see. Okay.
Kind of like Android is a
Yeah,
Android has
I was
launchers. You can install
Right.
custom launchers. Same thing. And to be fair, just throwing this out there, dear Google, good, nothing woke up. Please someday entertain the idea of letting us have the notification shade be like a thing that's replaceable. I know this will never happen. This is the furthest from realistic, but honestly, I still think that there are some app developers that would absolutely murder this. They would do so much better than what Samsung, Google, or anyone else has done with the notification shade. But yeah, not important.
Yeah. Yeah. Not really a whole lot I'm excited for with this macOS update, which was the same thing as last year, except I was excited for the weather app, and the weather app is pretty cool. I don't know how badly I want widgets on the desktop. like I guess also the streaming widgets from iPhone thing is like kind of interesting, but that's very much a band-aid solution to no Mac apps making widgets. Because like widgets aren't very helpful here, so of course like not a lot of people are using them, so not a lot of incentive to add them to your apps.
Oh, I don't know that I'd totally go there. I think there is still incentive, but yeah, I think a lot of developers are not feeling particularly motivated yet. And yeah, I'll just echo the same point. Nothing that they announced at WWDC for macOS left me anything remotely approaching a wow, I can't wait for this. Yeah, I wish there was something, but there was not. But hey, with that said, it reopens I'm not going to call it a theory, but it's my hope, which is that maybe they were just holding stuff back, and in a few months when this launches, they'll be like, oh, by the way, here's all the other stuff we didn't tell you about. I don't think that'll happen, but you know, like, I can hope.
Yeah, I don't know what I would necessarily. I don't know. Mac OS isn't like Windows for me, where I can like immediately pick out like 500 things I hate about it. But there's definitely like a couple weird things where they're bad, and then recent updates have made them worse. Like I really want system preferences back. This settings app's terrible.
Yeah,
it's not very good.
I don't think I'm as bothered by it as you are, or most people. But yeah, I still very firmly agree. I think this is less usable. But I'm hoping maybe that either through feedback, or maybe they have other intentions or plans that will make it make sense and improve on it later. I know that's a lot of optimism. I'm not supposed to be this optimistic, but you know, there's some part of me that thinks Apple has a history of at least kind of figuring this stuff out after a couple years and being like, oh yeah, okay, we did a boo-boo. We'll fix that. Sure. Sometimes they get it right.
And I know this would be so much work, and especially based on everything I've read in all of the blog posts from the Asahi Linux people, but it's like I would really like Boot Camp back.
Yeah.
Just I know it's gonna take a lot of work with Microsoft to do that, but like I would really appreciate because like Parallels is really cool, but it also doesn't work with DirectX 12, and also, you know, still has an entire OS running below the other OS. And I would just like something that works better than that.
Yeah, that's reasonable. Yeah, so I don't know. I completely agree. I just have zero interest in this macOS update. Sonoma, besides being kind of just a poor name choice, it's like the boring name choice of all. I don't think all. I think a lot of their California name choices have not been great, but Sonoma in particular is just, it's a sleeper. I just can't care. And what they announced, I don't care about. Not a single thing. So, I mean, even last year, at least they had that new audio API that I'm looking forward to seeing actually implemented someday in some apps, which has taken forever. But yeah, and the truth of the matter is, I'm also okay with there just being kind of a like not much happened update. That's okay with me. I you know, I don't need to look forward to each year's update. I'm totally okay with that. Frankly, it gives me more space to just think about and care about other things, which
Yeah. Yeah, that's
that's
that's the
nice.
other part of this is like it's okay to not change everything. Like most of macOS is fine.
Yeah.
It's again there's like really a lot of the newer stuff I think still needs work or tweaking or something. There's just a bunch of little things that I'd like to see get addressed, but that's fine. Um, I do like the weather app. That's still pretty cool. Um, so okay, what's next? I think I can do like one or two more things, and then my brain's off. Um,
Okay. Well, the thing that you
I'm gonna get
brought up
work.
a week or two ago, I think, is probably the best one. If
Oh, good. You're making me explain complicated technical topics.
uh, I'm assuming people could hear you saying that over a long distance to your microphone. Um, yes, you're on the hook to explain something challenging, which I'll probably just end up throwing in my own notes after. We'll see. Anyway, so
What
Win32
the?
app security via
Oh
app
yeah,
isolation.
that's what I wrote about last week. Okay. Um, now where did I put the link to that?
I will post it into the chat room,
Okay.
the YouTube chat.
Yep, there we go. Okay. Yeah. So one of the like big security problems with Windows is that it has not done really any of the containerization stuff we've seen on Android and to an extent Mac OS and iOS and to an extent on Linux with like Flatpak and Snap stuff.
Yeah, but that's pretty recent.
Yeah. So Windows just really doesn't have any of that. So when you install an application, it can kind of just fuck with everything on your computer. It can modify the registry, it can add stuff to your desktop, it can look at your files even if it doesn't necessarily need to. Um, so, you know, there was some talk when Microsoft was talking about Windows 10X a few years ago that they were changing this architecture and they would have um, traditional like Win32 apps running in a sandbox environment, which sounded pretty cool. Windows 10X never happened, never shipped on any devices. There was just like that one leaked build. So haven't really heard a lot about that. And then Microsoft announced a build earlier this year. I think it was last month. That they were working on a containerization isolation thing, and they finally posted a blog post last week that explains how this works in detail. And it's very much like Android applications or Flatpak on Linux, where when you're building an application, you can say, you can grant certain permissions to it at runtime or like at when it's being installed, and it just comes up during the installation process. And then you can request more as the app is running. It does stuff like limit access to the Windows registry. It, for applications where sort of the file system access is containerized, when you allow it access to a folder, it like moves those folders to like a secret like sandbox file system thing. So like it sounds pretty cool, and it's the end result is very much like what we're used to with mobile devices, where just anything that's like remotely sensitive, like you're going to get a pop-up that's like, do you want to let the app use your files or your camera or whatever? which now is pretty basic, but that's something that Windows has kind of lacked. And this is another thing that was just kind of an inherent part of the Universal Windows Platform, the UWP, back in like the Windows 8 and early Windows 10 days. But because developers hated that and no one really made software for that, it didn't end up making a noticeable like security difference for people, because it relied on the app being built for that. So
and in practical terms, what developer is out there saying, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to spend more time and work harder so that my app has less access.
Right.
I mean,
do that.
Some will.
I'm weird. Yeah. And I'm not a for-profit company. So that's the other part. I'm just a for-profit individual. Don't look at the privacy policy on anything I make. I am mining cryptocurrency on your computer. No. So yeah, like this is it's pretty nice. But it is almost useless in practical terms, because this is an opt-in system. This is a thing you build your app to support and handle properly. This is not we're going to apply containerization to all of your legacy software, which is what they need to do. And that's what they were going to do on 10X, supposedly. This is something that like you opt into, and then you have to make sure the installer and stuff can handle this. So really the only reason anyone would use this is, I mean, honestly, I don't even really know how many cases you would use this, because Microsoft is sort of like, when you read the blog post, they're sort of talking about this like something that you as a developer should use because it can protect against vulnerabilities in your software. So like the idea is like, hey, if someone finds a 0-day in your app, like, not a big deal. It's not going to fuck up the rest of the computer. So hopefully iTunes gets on this. I was reading about this and I was thinking like, well, okay, like maybe this would be nice for web browsers, because like that's a pretty big, there's 0 days in that a lot of the time, because they're running,
they're big things
online, right?
Yeah.
But then it's like, well, if you're running a web browser in this, you kind of just have to like let it have all permissions anyway. So I don't know how useful that would be.
Not necessarily.
Like you could do a little bit, like because like there are there's like Chrome and Firefox as like flat packet snap packages on Linux already. So like you do get like some of the advantages of that. Really, in Linux's case, this containerization stuff has mostly just been focused on better portability and distribution between the different distros. So like if I'm Mozilla, I don't necessarily have to compile and package and upload Firefox to like 15 different software distros for every Linux distribution. I can just be like, here's the Flatpak, and then that just works on everything. So there's kind of different priorities there.
But
and that's a problem that doesn't really exist on Windows.
All things considered, obviously, I think a lot of people will agree that they probably have more than one browser installed on their system. And in large part, a lot of people do it either to have like their mainline browser that does most of their stuff, and then like the backup browser in case sites don't work with their main one, or they use it for testing, or it is your personal time browser, however you think of that. Whatever the logic being, if you're like, a lot of people have that extra browser and maybe they want different security on each one, or maybe for out of necessity they have to use one for certain sites, and maybe they can turn the security really strict on everything they need except what they need that browser to be. So I could see there being some distinction there. And in a lot of cases, people probably don't use, let's just for example, they might not use the file access for the browser. Like, you might not really need to give the browser the ability to download files or touch your file system ever. And for a lot of people, that would actually be kind of a big win. So being able to restrict some access for apps, even browsers, would be kind of phenomenal.
Yeah. So, yeah, I am a little bit I'm very disappointed here because this is like kind of one of the last huge issues with Windows, where Windows 11, like there's a lot of it that's not good, but Windows 11 is like Microsoft actually going in and cleaning up the OS for the first time in like at least 10 years. Like it's them finally being like, yeah, UWP didn't work out. Like all the Metro stuff didn't work out. All the Windows Phone adjacent stuff like Cortana didn't work out. So all that's gone now. We're going through all of the apps that like were deprecated for 10 years that you guys kept using anyway, and we'll make them better, right? Like we're updating Paint, we're updating Notepad, we're updating the File Explorer.
God, that all feels like such low hanging fruit, though.
It is, but they're like sticking to it. Like they're not just like, all right, guys, Notepad has a dark theme now. You're welcome. We're done now. They're like still making a lot of improvements.
Yeah, but that's kind of the point. That's what I mean. Is these are things that they should have done for so long, and anyone could come along and say, "Oh, yay! Finally, they did this." And this is a time where the word "finally" is actually like pretty well deserved, because they should have done it a long time ago. And it's easy to kind of get a win by just doing the bare minimum. The problem is they haven't even done the whole bare minimum, which is fixing their security model, or really shoving in all of the things that they should have done.
There's very much still the program compatibility, and like not radically changing everything is still a high priority. And it's that, and also just the fact that like I was thinking about this when writing this article, is like Microsoft wasted so many years on like complete dead ends. Like there was Windows 8 was literally like a completely different way of using Windows that just got disregarded almost immediately because everyone hated it.
Almost immediately. I'm gonna.
It was a few years.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. I was gonna say I wouldn't go as far as saying that, because man,
I guess almost immediately in terms of like Windows timeline, where everyone just takes forever to upgrade. But
in hindsight, like a decade later, yes, it feels almost immediate a decade later. But it's now it just seems that way. Then that was an ongoing thing people complained about for a very long time, and Microsoft really did not want to give in on that, or at least seemingly didn't want to, because
like all of
it was very iterative.
Like all of the Metro UI stuff, the full screen start menu, the like so much of like Windows 8 just it wasn't really something people wanted to use, and then also developers didn't build stuff with it, and a lot of that was carried over to Windows 10, and that was still something that a lot of people and developers didn't want to engage with. Like there was quite a while Microsoft was like adding new stuff to building modern apps and new APIs, and they were getting like notifications working better and all this stuff, but like that was tied to this framework that no one wanted to touch. So it's like even though all this stuff was like technically in the OS and there's a few apps that were using it, for the most, like the base experience was like still like Windows 7. That's what people were using. Um, and so yeah, they just like it, and like I remember, you know, back to like the Windows 10 updates where like the big thing was like, wow guys, we added like a better support for like 3D objects. It's like, wow, no one cares. Where's my File Explorer updates, guys? You promised dark mode File Explorer like 2 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, they waste, like, well, I don't know if wasted is the right expression, but like they dumped so much time and money and energy into this direction for Windows that just completely did not work at all. So now they're trying to bring parts of that into this other area. Like that's what they were doing with I think they called it like Project Reunion, but it's like the Windows App SDK where it's still like Win32, but it's like all of the new framework stuff they've had for a while and all of the other new APIs. But yeah, so like that's kind of the reason why like they're so slow to catch up, because they basically like wasted not a decade but a good 6 maybe 8 years in a direction that people didn't care about.
So I mean, you're largely talking about UI aspects, though that does factor in pretty heavily with at least some
UI
of the development
and
details.
UWP.
Yeah. Since they've tried introducing like wholly different ways of building or packaging the app. Let's say that. One of the things that kind of stands out to me is this was literally one of the complaints. The security model that we're talking about today, one of their big complaints was very literally back in Vista that they had added a security model that was just imposed on users, and it was kind of harsh. It really did limit people's abilities to, or apps' abilities to access things. And the problem with Vista at the time, I would argue, is it didn't remember your selections. I mean, it's sort of like when you set up a new Android device and every single app you start it up and say, yes, you know, you're allowed to do this, you're allowed to do that. And Android remembers this for you. The problem with Vista is it didn't remember these. Like, apps that needed to access the file system, you would authorize it and then have to authorize it every single time you ran it or something like that. So Vista had its obvious poor decisions, but they were trying to do stuff like this back then, 15 years roughly ago. Obviously they should have been doing this somewhere along the way. Like, sure, it went wrong in Vista and they famously kind of reined it in, like overly so, for Windows 7. And then It seems like they just kind of forgot after that. They never really turned back around and tried to reintroduce this or do it any better or in some better way. Meanwhile, everyone sees it happen on macOS, which it had already been happening on Android and iOS long before that. Here's Windows sitting there as like a very, very late to join on the same thing. And even now, this thing, and totally in agreement with you, here's this thing where they could have done it right and they're still just not doing it. They're not pushing this in. And granted, I will throw this in. If they were to suddenly force all apps into this model, like with no other lead up to it, that would be bad. They have to introduce this stuff, give it like a full version for app developers to have a chance to be able to build for it, try it, maybe turn on a mode that enforces it, and then in the next version of Windows they could actually make it a firm thing. That would be a really good idea. They need to say that's what they're going to do. They need to actually do this, make a plan, make a commitment. I don't think they're going to.
Yeah, that's my hope here is like this is a public preview of an opt-in API, and my hope is that eventually this will be a stable API, and then they will update this enough to the point where it can take like unmodified Windows apps, like you don't really need to build anything special. And then at some point they'll be like, okay, we're gonna do this by default for everything.
Yeah.
That would be my hope. I have no clue if they're gonna do that or not.
And obviously build in like a concept of entitlements. Build in the concept of for those that don't know, the term entitlements basically is in some way, shape, or usually when we're talking about Mac apps or iOS apps, entitlements basically means that the App Store has to give special permission for the app to be able to do a thing that normally apps just aren't allowed to do at all. That's what an entitlement typically is in that context. In this context, I mean it as the user has an app that maybe hasn't been updated to use this API. The user should be able to manually go in there and say, oh no, I know that this app isn't updated for it. I'm taking responsibility to just grant it permission. Like preemptively, it doesn't need to know that permission exists. I'm just saying, yes, go ahead and let this app access the entire file system. Go ahead and let this app do whatever. Like include that functionality in there so that app developers that don't exist anymore or have abandoned their apps like aren't, you're covered. You can still use old apps. Right. But turn this into an enforcing system. It needs to be an enforcing system. That way users have more hope.
Yeah, I mean, that'd be my hope. And maybe they will do that because they are finally like getting back into updating Windows properly. So maybe. Diablo said, is this just lipstick on a pig, all this stuff in Windows 8? And like sort of. But they are like, I don't know. It's an interesting design decision where they were like, for a while they were like, all right, Win32 is like deprecated, like you're gonna use this other thing we built now, and then it's like, oh, that didn't work out. Okay, back to Win32. We'll carry over all the stuff we worked on eventually to this old thing. So like, kind of, sort of, but like not necessarily in a bad way. Like really it's just like when you use like one of the like fully updated Windows 11 apps, like the new File Explorer or like the Notepad or Paint or whatever, like they're like pretty fine. It's just, again, all of the underlying security stuff that they have not changed yet, and still not like really in a great spot on ARM, partially Qualcomm's fault, but also they were pretty slow on this train as well. Like they just released a couple months ago like their first ARM desktop thing. Like they just didn't have anything before then, and like it's not even really like a computer for normal people. They made it clear like in all the announcements, like this is a thing for you to like test and compile ARM Windows software on, and we're just giving you like the fastest ARM chip we can like make, so your compile times are faster. Like that's basically what it's for. It's like a development kit.
Yeah.
And yeah, like one last thing is like I do really want them to figure out containerization, not just from the perspective of like protecting malicious apps from like fucking with your computer, but also the other way around, for like apps interfering with other ones. Because like one of the big things I really hate about PCs right now is how many of them are now using like kernel level like anti-cheat or like like that kind of thing where like there's so many protections to try to get like a protected environment for an application or game that are just like completely insane. Like I don't want this stuff running like super low level on my computer. Like that's not how this is supposed to work. But because there's no other like mechanism for doing this is what we're stuck with. So like I would like Microsoft to keep building stuff on this and then eventually get to a point where they can be like, okay, we've built this thing. If you like build your app for it, we will like ensure nothing screws with your app. Like it's just like in a safe little void of computer. So like I hope that's the other direction they're going with this, because that might even be a bigger problem than just sort of like normal sandboxing. You know, at least when it comes to games, I don't know how much software outside of games is really doing that. I know like some of the like education software is really bad at this too. Like all the apps that got really popular at like height of COVID, where it's you see the articles about kids having, you know, stuff on their school computers. It's like making sure like no other like software can run, and it's like monitoring your webcam to make sure you're not looking away from the computer, like that kind of stuff. So that also kind of extends to that. So
yeah. So I'm surprised actually. I hadn't really thought much about it, but yes. The whole thing about like kernel level anti-cheat software really is a disaster. It's really terrible when any app developer is installing something that is in it by its very nature really causing severe damage to your system, and it makes everything worse, and it's a security like target. By its design, it is a target for like hackers and malware. Like this is obviously a problem. Google at one point, their whole thing was, and they even had this as kind of public messaging. Their whole point was, we're going to watch the apps that people build and the things that they do that we don't want them to do, and then we're going to figure out ways to then provide for them the APIs that they need to still be able to do what they need to do, but we're going to take away the things that they really shouldn't be doing. So, obviously this took years to get right, many years to get right, and I would argue they still haven't really quite nailed it yet, but yeah, Google went through Android and did a lot of stuff, added a lot of APIs to give developers those resources. And honestly, yeah, if Windows could build in something that is effectively the anti-cheat it needs, like, that solves this problem to an extent. There may still be areas where it's problematic, but yeah, they can provide that API and it should be solvable. The same way that Android has, just for example, the ability to prevent anyone from taking screenshots or video in certain apps. That was a thing a lot of apps wanted. And rather than letting them have just crazy restrictions and really screwing up your whole device, Google just added an API basically saying, yeah, you can turn it off right here. Simple as that. And it works. It works too well sometimes. But Microsoft could do the same thing, and it would go a long way. Yeah. So, speaking of Microsoft, I wasn't sure if you were gonna immediately call it out there, but yeah, speaking of Microsoft, they have announced something that is, of course, infinitely popular and everyone is super happy about it. You know, that they're raising prices. So the Xbox Series X is going up in price, as is Game Pass. Now, but wait for it, Game Pass is going up different amounts depending on which subscription you have. So now, as I understand it, the Game Pass for PC is not changing at all. Game Pass for console is going up $1 per month from $9.99 to $10.99, and then I believe it's the Ultimate subscription, if I got that right, is going up $2 per month, I think.
Yeah.
From $14.99 to $16.99. Yeah. So, yeah, that's not great. And I didn't actually piece together exactly how much the console was going up in price, but to be fair, I don't think that's really impacting nearly as many people at this stage. Like, I could be wrong, but I'm assuming they just aren't selling huge numbers of consoles compared to what they were before.
I mean, I my understanding is that the Series S is like several times more popular than the X, but that's also because there was a long stretch of time where like you could not find an X anywhere. It was exactly like the PS5, but you could find the S in stores and buy it. And yeah, Diablo said the Series S isn't bad at all. Yeah, it's like that's still okay. So what's the new price for the S? It's
okay, the S is not changing. It's just the X.
Oh, right. Okay, yeah, sorry. So what's the X at?
The thing that The Verge kind of did weird with their article is they listed the UK and Canadian prices, and Australia prices, but did not mention what the US price is going to be.
No, they said Microsoft is increasing its Xbox Series X prices in most countries in August, apart from the US, Japan, Chile, Brazil, and Colombia. So we're not getting a price increase, but most other countries are. So.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, that makes it. I mean, it still sucks for them. There's.
Yeah.
It just is what it is.
America number one, baby.
Regardless, they are still raising. They're raising prices on a lot of markets, on a lot of product. Maybe not everything everywhere all at once. Sorry, I had to. But still prices are going up. And part of me wonders, is this the inevitability of that theory everyone's had where the belief was Game Pass wasn't a sustainable price? I have trouble believing that raising it $1 suddenly makes it sustainable and everyone's happy. There's also the aspect of I guess, is this possibly going to do the same thing that it did for other services where people just don't want to see a price increase? Like, they would have stuck around if the price stayed the same, or they might even upgrade if there was a better option, like something that gives you more stuff. Then they would happily pay more. But just seeing a price increase tends to make people unhappy. I don't think $1 is enough to get too many people to unsubscribe, but maybe. Honestly, the price is still good.
Yeah, that's the thing is, like, I don't know if you can. I want to say I've heard from somewhere that Game Pass is like profitable, but I don't necessarily know what that means, because it's sort of just the product of all of the games like made by all of the studios under Microsoft's belt. Like, that's quite the balance sheet. But like, it's still pretty good. Because like, if you price it out, I don't know, I guess it's yearly. I don't think there's a discount on like yearly pricing, but that Game Pass Ultimate, which is now it's $14, right? Or 16? What is it?
16. Or 17. 17.
Yeah. So I don't know what that is per. That's per month. I don't know why brain's not working. So yeah, that's like $200 a year, which is, I mean, that's that's a little bit less than double of like an Amazon Prime sort of thing. But like it's hard to make a value argument here, but it's hard to make an argument that isn't in favor of this model, where like as soon as you play like 2 or 3 video games and you feel like you enjoyed them, it effectively paid for itself, because all of the games there's a lot of the games on those services that would cost $60 or $70 if you're not getting them on sale at some point. You know, if you're the kind of person where you're just like, you know, playing a few, like probably harder to make that, you know, work. But like I will say, like I signed up for Game Pass earlier this year, mostly because I know I'm gonna get Starfield this year. Like that was the thing I was 100% gonna get, and I had a discount from a friend who works at Microsoft, and it worked out to be like, you know, I think like $20 or $30 more to have Game Pass for a year than like buy Starfield by itself. So I'm like, yeah, okay, sure, that makes sense. I'll try this, and it's actually like really nice. Like I think it's probably the subscription I've got the most use out of, and I felt like I don't know if get my money's worth is the right expression here, but like definitely the one that seems the most impactful. I don't know. It's because like my issue for the longest time is like I was not buying games at all, really, because my brain was like, all right, I got to finish what I have. I can't be buying more video games. But then it's like, okay, great. Now I've got this game from like 3 years ago. Like I've tried to start it like 3 times. It's just not going to happen. So this effectively like forces my brain to be like, okay, we're resetting now. Here's like literally Netflix. You just pick something and start playing it.
And if you don't like really it, just put it down and go to something new.
Right, because that's also the thing with games. It's like all of these cost $60, and it's like I don't know if I want to play this game because like this is different than what I've played before, or it's just, you know, I don't know if I'll like it. But with this, it's like, okay, great. I played it for 2 hours. I hate it. I've lost nothing. I've just lost 2 hours.
Yeah.
And
okay, so obviously I'm entirely with you on this. And I even did Stadia that way on a few game streams. You know, hop on, do the whole like, hey, is this game any good? Spend 20 to 30 minutes trying the game. If it sucks, you leave it and go to something else. You don't have to stick around for a bad game. So with that said, though, there are certain games that I certainly look at and I go, yeah, I know I'm not going to play this, or I'm not going to care about it, or certain other games that I can confidently look at and say, oh yeah, no, 100%, beginning to end, I'll play this. I did not have, even after all the bad press from the leaks, I didn't have a doubt in my mind I was going to play The Last of Us Part 2. I was happy to throw money at that and just buy it. Despite my better judgment, and I would say I don't regret this in the least, but I also got Cyberpunk 2077. And I even knew that I shouldn't do that, but I'm glad I did. Especially since it all got completely refunded. Thank you, Big G, for that surprising choice.
Right.
So with that said, I'm certainly one of those people. I don't buy a lot of games. I'm not inclined to buy a lot of games. And so, you know, doing the math on the old pricing, when it was $15 a month for the Ultimate, is it Ultimate? Is that?
Yes.
Yeah. The Ultimate at $15 a month, that works out to $180 a year. Well, a few cents short. At $180 a year, that is 3 premium games, assuming they're $60 and not $70 or $80. That's fair, I guess. The thing is, if you're like me and you probably look at a bunch of games and think, oh, you know what? Here's something that came out 3 years ago. I can now buy it for $15. And it used to be a $60 game. I didn't get to play it then. I want to play it now. When you start factoring that math in, all of a sudden that, yes, you could buy 3 brand new games, or you could buy, no joke, 10 games that have been around for a couple of years, and you might still be coming out ahead.
Right.
So,
yeah, it's very dependent on you caring about recent-ish games. So, like that was, as I said, number one draw for me is like, I know I'm gonna buy this game. If I pay a little bit more money, I can play that, and also a bunch of other stuff. So, like, okay, sure.
Yeah.
It's also like the kind of thing that affects the equation there is one of the things that I really like also is, and this is just, I'm turning into a Microsoft shill, I can feel it. Is
well, you're already an
I
Apple
got
shill,
my
so.
yeah. So I got my Xbox Series X earlier this year, and I'm like, okay, I want to get back into like console gaming. I don't want to like sit at my desk and play all my video games and then also do all of my work at the same desk. Let's maybe mix it up a little bit. And what's nice about this is like, okay, great, I have this subscription thing. I have instant access to the console versions of like all these games I played on PC like years ago, right? Like I replayed Wolfenstein New Order. I just got, it's not in the subscription, but I got a couple other things. I've been playing the Mass Effect trilogy that's on the Game Pass Ultimate. So that's been nice for me, is like, yeah, there, like, you can wait a couple years and get all these games for like almost nothing. But it might also, give you something to do outside of the new stuff, and so
yeah,
it's definitely very dependent on the kind of person you are. And what your platform, I guess, is, because like the Ultimate's pretty cool because I can just, when a new game comes out, it's like, okay, do I want to play it on PC or Xbox? Doesn't matter. I can just try it on both because I have, access to it on both things.
So I'm going to throw in what I would consider the actual answer to this. The thing I think most people should probably be doing, in my completely expert, like, know everything opinion that is perfect and infallible and is solving the world's problems for everybody. Just do the thing where buy games as you want to buy them. And if you feel yourself going, oh yeah, I want to taste test a bunch of stuff or try a bunch of stuff, or there's like several games I'm going to play and not go buy games for a while. Yeah, subscribe for a while, but don't just maintain a subscription just to maintain it. Yep. Easy solution. Spend as you will and play a bunch of stuff. And then when you get to a point where you're like, oh yeah, you know what? I want to go buy such and such game. It's not going to be on Game Pass. And I'll play that for 2 months or whatever. Yeah, you go do that. You're done. You're good. Just turn off Game Pass for a while.
And I don't know. I think this is only blocked if you're like on the free trial. I don't think it matters if like if you're as long as you're paying for it, it's fine. But also Game Pass has kind of the cool thing where if a game is on Game Pass, you can buy it at a discount. I think it's only like, I think it might only be like, I want to say 10% a difference, and then you get a discount on some of the like DLC and stuff. But it's like, oh, okay, sure, that's cool. So like,
Stadia
if you
had something
grab
like
it,
that.
yeah. So like if you grab Game Pass for a month and you play a bunch of games and you find one that you like, you can buy it to keep it. So I'm now stocked up on like 2 more years of Game Pass, so I don't really care about this price hike. I joke that I think this is Microsoft passing on the cost of that breakup fee with Activision onto the gamers when that fails. because they're going to be on the hook for several. I don't know if it's million or $1 billion. It's a lot of money that I will never see in my lifetime. Somewhere there.
Yeah. So first off, don't say you'll never see it in your lifetime. You never know if we'll have like a Venezuela level inflation situation where suddenly millions and billions of dollars are equal to what like a 10 spot would have been today. But yeah. So I'm sure that.
But yeah, I do think that they'd have to raise it a couple more times for it to reach like a Netflix level of like, does this make any sense? Like, there has to be it's still, again, if you're like fully using it, it probably still makes sense. But
yeah,
you know, if they do this 2 or 3 more times, I could see getting to the point where people, you know, treat it again like Netflix, where it's like, is Netflix like even really like releasing anything I care about anymore? Kind of, you know.
My
like kind of
hunch, I think when this reaches the point of $20 a month, that's going to be the stopping point. Like, maybe it can get up to $20 a month, but the moment that they're like, oh, it's going to be $20.99, I think you're going to see people going, too much, guys.
Yeah, because this is already more than most streaming services.
Which is kind of understandable. Like, you know,
right. Games are more complicated.
Yeah. You know, if you're comparing this to streaming services, a lot of their stuff is mass appeal, well, I guess games are too. But the cost of games is generally pretty freaking high. So it's kind of understandable that this can be a little more expensive than your streaming services, but there's still a limit.
Yeah. Yeah, gonna be interesting to watch for sure. But like, I'm definitely a fan of Game Pass for the moment. Again, still upset that I can't play Starfield as soon as it comes out, even though that's what Microsoft continues to say. Because they made up a special day that's before day one that you can play Starfield on if you pay for the, I don't know, $80, $90 premium Super Plus version. I don't know how much it costs. I'm not salty about it. It's fine.
I mean, I get where you're coming from for sure, but at the same time, I sort of understand those a little bit. I understand giving the like premium experience play early thing.
I understand that they would want a special exclusivity period for the game that they've probably dumped, I don't even know how much money and time into. It's been in development for forever. But don't make up a special day before day one, guys.
Yeah.
I think that's false advertising, is to be like, you can play Starfield on day one, except now there's a day before day one.
Yeah.
That other people can play Starfield on that aren't you.
Yeah.
Like, okay, guys. All right. Like, just be open about it from the start, and I will understand. But I kind of feel gross.
Weirdly, that's bringing back to mind. What game was it? Maybe it was Cyberpunk. I might have that wrong, but I think it was Cyberpunk, where because of the terms of their launch agreements, certain services got to open it up for play before certain other services. And so a bunch of people are furious because they're sitting there like, wait a second. So who was it? Was it PC players or maybe it was console? I don't know. Somebody had to wait like 12 hours before they could start playing it because of whatever the launch agreements were. Or because the service simply said, oh, it goes live at such and such time. And because it's that time in Australia or whatever, you can now start playing it on this, and it's worldwide for them. but for every other country, like, it opens up at a specific time. I don't know, whatever it was something like that. And yeah, that went over very poorly.
Yeah.
And that's just like a few hours. You're talking about a full day, which, yeah, that is, I get it. It's crappy.
I think it's a few days.
Oh, is it a few days?
You can. Yeah, I think it's like, I want to say
there are going to be people who are just speed running that thing. They're going to have every single thing up on YouTube, and that by the time everyone else gets to start playing, they're going to be like, yeah, I've already seen it. Now I don't care.
Yeah, I mean, thank goodness I don't look at Twitter anymore, because it probably end up seeing some spoilers.
I mean, no one should look at Twitter. But...
Yeah, it's 5 days.
Oh, geez, that actually is kind of too much.
Yeah, that is false advertising. Play day 1, and by day 1 we actually mean week 1. Sometime in week 1 you can play. And yeah, it's for the premium edition, which is $100. Like, no, I don't have $100 for one game. A game that I assume I'm gonna like, but I don't really know. That's the other thing.
Yeah, that's. I know that this is a long, heavily argued discussion, but seriously, game developers, please start doing demos again. Just, or maybe not demos, but like the first 30 minutes of a game, first hour of a game, whatever, put that out there. There was a reason this was a popular thing to do for a while. People liked it. Honestly, I don't play a lot of games if I don't have some inclination of whether or not I'll like them.
Yeah, there's a few studios still doing that, and I think they're maybe a little bit more common on Switch, but yeah, it's not as common anymore.
I feel like free play weekends have largely replaced that.
Yeah,
which it is funny because free play weekends, I know people who, like, they straight up wake up like 20 minutes before the game goes free play, and they'll just literally finish the game in the weekend. So I feel like free play weekends are maybe not as effective as they could be. And to be fair, I've played a few things on free play weekends and come away going, okay, cool. The game was okay. I might have bought it for real, but I feel like I got everything out of it I wanted. I didn't finish it, but it was fun.
Yep.
I don't think I would actually really care if I don't finish this, so I can walk away from it, which is kind of what I did on Far Cry 6, I think it was. I think that's the one they had on free play.
Yeah, David says, I will be getting the premium version of Starfield. Can't wait for it to blow up in my face like Cyberpunk. Yeah. I'm not paying more money. Like I said, like that was part of the reason I got Game Pass. Is like, great, I'm gonna get Starfield plus all this extra stuff that might or may not be worth it. So not gonna do that again. But happy for you, and whenever the day is that I'm granted access, I will be taking off work that day and just playing this. It's gonna be great.
I find it amusing that you're going to take off time, which the amount that you would normally get paid for that time is far and away more than you would get paid, or more than you would be spending if you just bought that premium one. Not to say you wouldn't still take time off, but
yeah,
yeah,
it's gonna be great whenever I can do it again. Super cool. Also, still kind of a bummer. It's only 30 FPS on console.
Yes.
Whatever. I think, unfortunately, Mass Effect, I've been playing that trilogy, and that has been 60 FPS at 4K, and it's like not a super amazing looking game. Like it looks pretty cool at parts because it's the remaster from a couple of years ago. But I do have a feeling I'm gonna open Starfield and just go, ugh. why is it not as smooth? What's going on? All 60 FPS games that are spoiling me.
Yeah, no, I get it. It's funny because people always complain that like, oh no, your phone is only 90 hertz instead of 120 or things like that. And I'm the first to say, seriously, this is a dumb thing to complain about. Just like 90 is fine. Don't get caught up in 90 versus 120. But when it comes to games, like in my mind, 60 is where you should probably be at. You could drop down to like 50s, and that's not the worst thing in the world. When you're getting down to 30, yeah, that is a little bleak. 30 is where you probably shouldn't be at.
Yeah. I just got the alert that my AirPods are about to die. And I kind of need to go anyway, so I think I will go now.
Oh, fine, be that way. Leave me with the final dumb topic that... Yeah, I don't know, actually. There's not a lot to say on that one, but... Yeah, I'll finish up on that one topic, and that'll be good. That's where I'll be ending for the night.
All right. Well, goodbye, everyone.
Well, thanks for hanging out.
Maybe next week. Depends on how dead I am.
Oh god, I'm probably gonna be so dead next week. I've got a very busy next few days in front of me.
Yeah, I have a review thing coming at some point, and then not like near future, but less than a month from now is Prime Day, which I'm gonna hate. So that's gonna be real fun.
Yes, Prime Day is on the 11th and 12th. So,
unfortunately.
Yes. Yeah. Well, I don't think I'm going to really have any involvement in Prime Day, so that's fine for me. But I wish you luck.
Valnet will, I imagine Valnet will put me in the trenches somehow.
Let's see. So Prime Day the 12th is a Wednesday. So after you have worked like crazy, you can come on here and we'll just take it easy. Like we will do nothing but talk about stupid stuff.
I'll just like play a video game and
we could share
my screen.
Actually, well, no. We could just play like some Fall Guys or something.
Fall Guys, sure. Maybe. That might be the best thing to do. Because the alternative will probably be, unless something incredible happens that week, the alternative will be talking about e-commerce. So.
Oh God, no. We'll play Fall Guys and just like we'll just talk about like, none of us bought anything, or here's what I bought. That's all. And then 15 minutes later, we'll have completely run out of things to say, and we'll just go to just talking movies and playing games.
Perfect.
Or maybe we'll do like a Jackbox night or something. All right. Anyway, I won't hold you any longer. So I'm assuming typical pitch. Go listen to Tech Tales. Anything else?
Yes, techtalesshow.com. We just dropped on Monday, I think, or Tuesday, the Duke Nukem Forever episode. Speaking of video games, awful video game. Like truly terrible. Never really felt like deeply uncomfortable playing a video game before, but there's a first time for everything. So that's cool.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
All right. I'm going now. Bye.
All right. Later, man. Bye. All right. So, Oh, good. David liked the Duke Nukem episode. Um. Uh. Now you see me. Now you're dead. So yeah. Anyway. Let's see. The one topic I still have floating around. It's a holdover from the Apple event, kind of distantly. But it's something that came out sometime shortly after, and I feel like it warrants a little bit of mockery. The Mac Pro, as people have discovered, does not support external GPUs. It only supports the GPUs that are part of the cheese grater Mac. You cannot put in your own graphics cards, or rather you could put them in, they just won't be useful for anything. So obviously people have been dunking on this, kind of hating on this. There are reasons people want this, obviously. Anything from doing AI stuff, because a lot of the external GPUs are still more efficient for doing AI than Apple Silicon, or at least maybe not better at it, but let's just say more optimized for those specific cards. There's also an element where like certain things are coded specifically for certain GPUs. Obviously there are, just for example, a lot of games that have been built that target NVIDIA, or they target Radeon cards or whatever. So yeah, a lot of people are not super big fans of the fact that you can get a computer that presumably would really, really kill if it had the ability to install more GPUs. But yeah, not an option. What then people have kind of circled back to is asking, what is this computer for? And further exploration, I don't think it's actually listed in this article. So, I don't see it. So a lot of people have hypothesized that, oh, hey, all those extra slots would be good for sticking in SSDs. So you could at least expand the storage with them. And that is true. You certainly could. The catch is apparently all of the PCIe slots are tied to a single bus. So your bandwidth across all of them combined is actually comparatively kind of low. I don't have the numbers in front of me. I don't know exactly what it was, but basically you are getting a single bus to the entire lineup of PCI slots. So the speed that I saw, I think I read somewhere, or someone was commenting, you could basically throw in like 2 SSDs and max out your bandwidth. So that's not great either. Basically, at this point, like, people, I've seen so many people asking, what is this for? And there is really only in my mind one answer remaining. These are actual production studio machines. They are machines where you would stick in like a capture card. They are machines where you would stick in like MIDI cards. You might have like musical instruments streaming into a single box. This would be good for doing live shows at like, stadiums, arenas, things like that. DJ sets would do well with this. Like, these are the things you can use this for. Live TV productions would even do really well. You stick in a bunch of video capture cards or whatever is appropriate, and yeah, you can have everything streaming into a single box without having a ton of dongles hanging out. But outside of that, this is literally a machine that costs $3,000 to $4,000 more and is in almost no other way any better than a Mac Studio. I don't really know why this is important, and at the time, like, I kind of wanted to talk more about this a couple weeks ago, but at this stage it's kind of a non-topic. But I just felt the need to bring this up and kind of point out this is literally a product Apple made yet again for a very, very tiny subset of very specific needs. Also, and at this point, if you see anybody, especially YouTubers, that are hyping up the fact that they got a Mac Pro, I'm making fun of YouTubers, but obviously this is for anybody. If anyone buys this Mac Pro, you can take some solace in knowing they got absolutely ripped off. They got conned. If they're not putting it to use for exactly the reasons I just described, chances are they suckers. Anyway, so I guess that was more of a PSA than anything. Who knows? I don't know. I'm not really sure what fight I'm fighting on those grounds anymore. But yeah, so that's pretty much the only thing I had to say on this topic, I think. David, they must have had a lot of sales from studios to make something just for them. They do, actually. To be fair, the Mac Pro has actually been a popular computer over the years in music production. It gets used in a lot of like recording studios, things like that, for the exact reason that I just described. You can put in audio cards. They do get used in like video production, like live TV video production settings. They get used in a few other things. So it is a thing that there are definitely customers for this. But yeah, I mean, they're making something just for a very, very small group of people. Otherwise, in pretty much every way, and even a lot of those, like music production, frankly, they would do better just getting a Mac Studio. They don't need the actual maxed out Pro of a Mac Pro. And everything that they would do through in a music studio could be run through Thunderbolt ports. So there's nothing stopping them. Well, sorry, actually there is some equipment that would have to be installed on the PCIe slots just because they don't make Thunderbolt versions of certain hardware. But outside of that, like this is a pretty limited use case sort of thing. Diablo, hopefully only the right buyers are choosing this. I guarantee there are a lot of them out there who they look at this, they just lust after having the big expensive thing. And hey, you know, I'll be the first to say if you just want it because it's big, expensive, and unnecessary, go for it. If you have the money to throw at it, cheers, have fun. But for the rest of the world, nah, just no. At this point, I think it's reasonable just to walk away from the Mac Pro and write it off. David, you would rather spend money on the Vision Pro? Well, hell yeah, me too. The Vision Pro, at least, I think would be a lot more fun and useful. That said, I personally, honestly, I don't know. I was just about to say I would rather spend half of that money on a Mac Studio and the other half anywhere else. But, you know, now that it's out there, I suppose if I had to spend the money, couldn't use it on totally other things. A Mac Studio and a Vision Pro still come in less than a Mac Pro. And that would be worth it, you know, out of all that lineup. Though, to be fair, you could also just buy like 3 iPhones. Yeah, I'd probably just buy 3 iPhones. Not at the same time, just each year. Just get a really good iPhone every year. Be happy with that. It makes the Vision Pro look like a good deal. Honestly, it is, comparatively. I mean, it's still a ridiculously expensive product, and I think it is too expensive at $3,500. But yeah, the Mac Pro is, by any reasonable definition, like a straight ripoff. It again, it has its very specific uses. I'm not disputing that for a second. I fully acknowledge, and that's what I'm even arguing for. It has its specific uses, but the practical reality is it is just not a good buy. At least not for most people. Anyway, unless anybody has any other topics to drag out, I think that is where, this is where I have run out of things to talk about. Let's see. So, my own list of things going on. I have a review that is submitted. It should go live someday. I honestly have no idea when. My hunch, I could be wrong, but I bet it's going to go live on Friday. It could go, well, there's a chance it'll go live tomorrow, but I think it'll be Friday or Saturday. That would be the more likely thing. And that'll be for the Insta360 Flow, the smartphone gimbal. If all goes well, I will also have another review going live next week, which I can't talk about. You will find out what it is next week. And that is I'm going to be spending basically every minute from now until when that goes live, trying to make sure that goes live on time. Because it is going to take a lot of time, a lot of effort, and I am also going to try, and I think this is probably too ambitious, but we'll see. I might actually see if I can put together a quick YouTube review of my own. It might not, that one might not happen on embargo time. We'll see. Well, yeah, I'll see what I can put together. I am also, I'm not going to get into the specifics of this one either, but I also have some other things happening between now and then, which are also going to consume time, which kind of sucks. A lot of stuff all kind of came together on the same stack of days, which is maybe not the best, but it happened that way. Let's see, what else has happened? Trying to think. As usual, should have movie post on Friday. I believe I will be gaming both nights this weekend. There is a chance, especially if I'm as unproductive as I probably will be, that come Sunday night I might skip gaming. We'll see. It depends on how much I've been able to get done. But with that, I think that about wraps everything up. No one's been popping up with any other recommendations on topics. So, let's see. Thank you all for coming by, hanging out, being part of the conversation, keeping that chat room alive. It is certainly a huge help. As usual, to anyone who would like to help support the channel, there are links down below to Streamlabs, Cash App, and Patreon. And of course, huge thanks to those who do support the channel. I see all of you guys actually in chat right now, which is awesome. Let's see. And I'm trying to think. My brain is not turning off, but it's not finding the things that I want to say. Anyway, so yeah, thank you. It's awesome having you guys here, and I will see you in the next one. Good night, everybody.